I never thought I'd still be living like this at 27. I was raised to believe that if you worked hard and stayed out of trouble, life would eventually pay off. But now it feels like the only thing that's paying off is my debt, and not in the good way. Most mornings start the same. I wake up before my alarm, not because I'm excited to start the day, but because my anxiety usually kicks in around 6:12 a.m. My thoughts start racing before my feet even hit the floor: rent, groceries, student loans, electricity, my phone bill, the $39 overdraft fee from yesterday because I forgot about the Spotify subscription that hit early. Every dollar has a job, and mine seem to go AWOL faster than I can count them. I live in a one-bedroom that costs more than half my monthly income. I picked this place because it's close to both of my jobs, a coffee shop barista by morning, and customer support rep by night, logging in remotely from my couch. I used to dream of having my own creative studio. I was into design in college, even won a little award for a branding project. But now my creativity is spent figuring out how to stretch $48 until Friday. Spoiler alert, it usually doesn't. Eating is an equation. Groceries or gas? Fruit or ramen? I stopped buying meat about a year ago. It was never a political statement, just math. Last week I cried in the bread aisle because a loaf I always buy went up by 80 cents. I stood there frozen with the store-brand wheat in one hand and my phone calculator in the other. I probably looked insane. But this is my normal now. I feel ashamed all the time. Ashamed that I can't do more, ashamed that I'm still asking my mom if she can spot me $100 until payday, even though she barely has enough herself. I've stopped telling friends when I can't go out because I can't afford it. I just make up excuses, like I'm tired or swamped with work. Which isn't even a lie, just not the whole truth. It's like I'm stuck on this treadmill that keeps speeding up, and every time I think I've found my pace, the incline cranks up too. Wages haven't moved, but everything else has. Rent went up $130 last year, but I didn't get a raise. Gas, groceries, internet, all of it eats away at whatever scraps I manage to save. I don't remember the last time I felt like I could breathe financially. I tried budgeting apps. I tried cash envelopes. I've tried side gigs, dog walking, online surveys, selling art on Etsy. Once, I even considered starting an OnlyFans out of sheer desperation, but I couldn't do it. I'm not judging anyone who does, I just knew it would mess with my head even more. The worst part is how it shrinks your world. I used to love planning trips, even if they were just road trips a few hours out. Now I feel like I barely leave my zip code. Every time I say, maybe next year, it's like I'm pushing my life further into some imaginary future that never arrives. I dreamt of going back to school for UX design. I even got accepted into a program 2 years ago, but I couldn't afford the tuition, even with scholarships. I postponed that dream so many times it's become background noise. I've stopped talking about it with anyone. Sometimes I think I'm too old now. I know I'm not, but it feels that way when your life has been on pause for so long. I see people online who seem to be thriving, buying homes, getting married, taking vacations, starting businesses. And I'm happy for them, truly. But it also hurts. I wonder what they did differently, or if they just had a little more help than I did. Some cushion, some connection, some piece of the puzzle I never got. Lately, I've been trying to focus on the small wins. Like the fact that I paid off one of my credit cards this month, even if it's just a $300 limit one. Or that I made my own soy candles and sold a few at a flea market. Or that I've started writing again, mostly late at night when the apartment is quiet and my thoughts are too loud to ignore. I write about things I wish I could feel more of: freedom, stability, ease. I imagine what it would be like to not flinch every time I check my bank app. I picture walking into a grocery store and grabbing whatever I want, not just what's on sale. I think about sleeping a full 8 hours without waking up panicked about money. I don't think that's asking too much. But right now, it feels like wishing for the moon. I try not to lose hope, but it's hard. Some days it feels like I'm pouring all my energy into just keeping my head above water, and I can't even see the shore. I want more than survival. I want to thrive. I want to live a life that feels like mine, not one that's constantly at the mercy of the next bill, the next emergency, the next, sorry, not in the budget. But I'm still here. I'm still trying. And maybe that counts for something. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. I never thought I'd feel this way, so stuck, so small in a world that seems to move faster than I can keep up with. But here I am, in my mid-20s, juggling a job that barely covers the essentials and a rent that keeps climbing like some relentless monster, all while the cost of living sneaks up on me like a shadow I can't outrun. Every morning, I wake up with this heavy knot in my chest. It's not just the alarm dragging me out of sleep, but the weight of what the day ahead means. Bills. Groceries. Gas. Phone. Utilities. Somehow, all these little costs add up to a mountain I have no gear to climb. I work hard. I'm not lazy or careless. Yet, somehow, my paycheck disappears like sand through my fingers, leaving me wondering how I'm supposed to save, let alone live. I remember a time, just a few years ago, when I thought I had everything mapped out. Graduate school, a decent job, a little apartment of my own. I pictured myself traveling, maybe moving to a city full of lights and endless opportunities. But the reality is this small apartment with cracked walls and noisy neighbors, and the constant balancing act of deciding which bill to pay this week. Do I pay the electricity or fill up the gas tank? Do I skip groceries to cover rent, or eat less and avoid overdraft fees? The economy, it feels like it's spinning away from me. Prices rise every time I blink, but my income barely budges. I hear people say, just budget better, as if I haven't tried 100 times. I track every penny, I clip coupons, I meal prep like a pro. But when rent hikes again, or a medical bill pops up unexpectedly, it all falls apart. The system feels rigged, like I'm a hamster running on a wheel, getting nowhere no matter how fast I push. Emotionally, it's exhausting. The stress is like a dull ache that never really goes away. Some days, I feel like I'm drowning under invisible pressure. It seeps into everything: sleep, my mood, my relationships. I avoid friends because I can't afford nights out. I say no to invitations, explaining that I'm just busy, but really it's because the thought of spending extra money terrifies me. Sometimes I lie awake at night, imagining what life would be like if I had a cushion, a little breathing room. But more often than not, that cushion feels like a cruel joke. I've had to postpone so many dreams. A trip with friends? That's out. Saving for a car? Not even close. Even the idea of continuing education feels like a luxury, a far-off fantasy. I see peers advancing, buying homes, traveling, investing in themselves, and I cheer them on silently, feeling both proud and deeply envious. It's hard to not compare, but social media doesn't help. It's a parade of success and happiness that makes my struggle feel invisible and even more isolating. Still, I cope. I find small victories where I can, like scoring a discount at the grocery store or finding a second-hand jacket that looks almost new. I've gotten creative, learning to cook cheap meals that fill me up and remind me there's comfort in simple things. I cling to the moments when I can laugh with friends or get lost in a good book. These scraps of joy keep me going. I talk to a few close people about it, and sometimes it feels like a relief to just say the truth out loud. I'm tired, I say. I'm scared I'll never get ahead. And they listen, really listen, without judgment. That connection matters more than I realized. But most days, I just hold on to hope, the stubborn, quiet hope that one day things will shift. That I'll find a better job or that rent will stabilize. That the economy will stop feeling like it's squeezing the life out of me. I dream of waking up without that knot in my chest, of having money left over after bills to do something spontaneous or to save for the future. I dream of freedom, the freedom to breathe without counting every dollar. It's hard to admit how fragile that hope can feel. Some days it's bright, like a small flame I guard carefully. Other days, it flickers dangerously close to going out. But I hold on because what else can I do? Giving up isn't an option. Not really. So I keep moving forward. I keep budgeting, keep working, keep dreaming. I remind myself that this isn't my whole story, even if it feels like the entire chapter right now. One day, maybe, I'll look back and see this struggle as a step, not a trap. Until then, I live honestly in this messy, complicated present, feeling vulnerable, feeling tired, but still, somehow, still hopeful. I never imagined adulthood would feel like this, like walking through a dense fog where every step is uncertain, and the weight on my shoulders grows heavier with each passing day. When I was a kid, I pictured being independent as freedom, making my own choices, having a place to call mine, maybe even traveling somewhere new once in a while. But now, in my mid-20s, freedom feels like a cruel joke. It's more like being trapped in a cage made of bills, rent, and invisible chains tied to a paycheck that never quite stretches far enough. I work a job I'm thankful to have, but it barely covers the basics. Rent eats up more than half my income, and utilities, groceries, transportation, each expense feels like another bite out of what little I have left. Prices seem to climb endlessly, faster than I can keep up. It's like the whole world's on a treadmill that's speeding up, and I'm stuck running with it, gasping for breath, but never getting ahead. Some days, I wake up and the first thought isn't about anything hopeful, it's about math. How many dollars do I have left? What bills are coming up? Can I afford to skip a meal or cut back on essentials? I try not to let these thoughts consume me, but they cling to the edges of my mind like a shadow I can't shake. The pressure isn't just financial, it's emotional. There's this constant gnawing anxiety, a low hum of stress that never truly fades. I catch myself holding back tears when I look at my bank account or when a new unexpected expense pops up. I've learned to hide it from my friends and family because I don't want to be that person who's always complaining or asking for help. Pride and fear of judgment keep me silent. But inside, it's like a storm raging, a mix of frustration, hopelessness, and a deep sadness that sometimes feels overwhelming. I had dreams once. Big ones. I wanted to go back to school, maybe start a career in something creative, writing, photography, something that felt like me. I imagined living somewhere vibrant, where I could meet new people and feel inspired. But those dreams have been pushed aside, shelved indefinitely like old books gathering dust. Instead, I focus on surviving, on managing the endless balancing act of expenses and priorities. The economic environment makes it all so much harder. Every time I think about asking for a raise or looking for a better job, I'm met with a wall of uncertainty. Jobs are scarce or demand experience I don't have. The cost of living keeps rising, so even if I find more money, it's a constant battle just to maintain the same standard of living, never mind improving it. The system feels rigged to keep people like me in place, working hard but never really moving forward. Coping is a daily practice. I've become an expert in budgeting, clipping coupons, and finding the cheapest options for everything. I've cut out luxuries, social outings, even little comforts that used to bring me joy. It's lonely sometimes, but I try to remind myself I'm not alone, so many others are in the same boat. I lean on small rituals, like morning coffee at home, or walks in the park to clear my head. Music helps too, it's a lifeline when everything feels overwhelming. Yet, despite the weight of it all, I still hold on to hope. It's fragile and flickering, but it's there. I dream of a day when I can breathe easier, when money isn't the first thing on my mind every morning. When I can pursue passions without guilt, travel without anxiety, and maybe even help others who are struggling too. I remind myself that this chapter, as hard as it is, doesn't have to define my whole story. But the truth is, some days I feel trapped, like I'm running in circles with no finish line. The pressure isn't just about dollars and cents, it's about the feeling that life is passing me by while I'm stuck trying to keep my head above water. I wonder if I'll ever break free from this cycle or if this is the normal I'm supposed to accept. For now, I keep moving forward, one day at a time, holding on to whatever hope I can find in the cracks of this difficult reality. Because even in the fog, I still want to believe there's a clearer path ahead. And maybe someday, I'll find it. It's hard to explain exactly how it feels to be caught in this kind of financial squeeze, but maybe the best way is to start with a day like any other. I wake up in a tiny apartment that's more cramped than cozy, with the hum of the heater reminding me I'm paying more than I probably should just to stay warm. Coffee's the first priority, but even the cheapest brands make me wince when I see the price tag. I pour myself a cup, not because it's a treat but because I need the jolt to face another day where the math in my head is all about expenses, debts, and how to make the numbers stretch a little further than yesterday. Every single choice feels weighed down by money, or the lack of it. Should I eat out or just buy ingredients to cook at home? It seems simple, but eating out once or twice a month used to be a small joy, something to look forward to, a brief escape from the grind. Now it feels like a reckless splurge, a dangerous detour from the tightrope I'm walking. Even groceries feel like a battlefield. Fresh fruits and vegetables? Sometimes I skip them because the price makes it impossible to fit everything else in the cart. I've learned to be very creative with canned beans and frozen veggies. My body knows the difference, but my wallet dictates what's on my plate. Bills arrive like clockwork, relentless and unforgiving. Rent, utilities, phone, internet, student loan, each one eats away at what little I earn. And my income? It's frustratingly stagnant. My job pays just enough to keep me afloat, but not enough to breathe freely or save for the future. Every raise feels like a mirage that keeps drifting farther away, lost somewhere in the rising tide of inflation and cost of living hikes. The numbers don't lie, my expenses grow faster than my paycheck, and the gap just widens. The feeling of being trapped is suffocating. It's like running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up while my legs get heavier with each step. I want to stop, catch my breath, but the system doesn't give me that luxury. There's no pause button, no take a break option. I've seen headlines about economic recovery and growth, but it's like they're talking about another country, another life, one I'm not part of. The news about markets and jobs feels distant, almost cruel in how out of touch it seems with what I'm living. Emotionally, it wears me down. The constant stress gnaws at me, making it hard to relax or enjoy moments that should be simple pleasures. There's a quiet anxiety that never fully leaves, a low hum in the back of my mind reminding me to be careful, to not spend too much, to always think 2 steps ahead. Social invitations come with an immediate calculation: can I afford this night out? Will I have enough for the bus fare? Sometimes I say no, even when I want to say yes, because the cost of fun feels like a risk I can't take. Sleep isn't immune to this pressure, either. At night, my brain replays the day's transactions, the numbers I didn't have enough to cover, the bills I had to put off. I think about the future with a mix of hope and dread. Hope because I want more, a stable job, a home of my own, a chance to travel, to not constantly worry about money. Dread because these dreams seem so far away, like they belong to someone else. Sometimes, I wonder if I'll ever get there, or if I'm destined to keep juggling just enough to survive. I've had to postpone so many things that once felt essential. Education courses, for example. I wanted to learn new skills to improve my job prospects, but tuition and fees were out of reach. Vacations, hobbies, even small luxuries like a new jacket or a night at the movies have been shelved indefinitely. I try to remind myself these are temporary sacrifices, but the months and years stretch long and the sacrifices start to feel permanent. Coping is a mixed bag. Sometimes I find comfort in routines, tracking my spending obsessively, planning meals, looking for discounts. Other times, I let myself drift into daydreams where money isn't a concern, and I imagine what life could be like. I talk to friends and family, though I hesitate to share everything. I don't want to be a burden or seem like I'm complaining. Social media adds a strange pressure too. Everyone else seems to have it together, posting snapshots of trips, new gadgets, or nights out. It's hard not to feel isolated in those moments. Despite all this, I hold on to hope. I keep applying for better jobs, learning what I can through free resources online, trying to build a small emergency fund even if it's just a few dollars a month. I remind myself that this isn't forever. I want to believe in a future where I don't have to count every penny, where I can make decisions based on what feels right, not just what I can afford. I want to reclaim the freedom that financial pressure has stolen. But for now, I'm still here, balancing, surviving, pushing through. It's exhausting, yes. Sometimes I cry in the quiet moments because it all feels unfair. But I'm also stubborn. I want to tell my story honestly, because I know I'm not alone. There are so many young adults like me, caught in this economic squeeze, trying to find light in a world that seems designed to keep us running just to stand still. So that's my truth, the daily grind of money worries, the emotional toll, the postponed dreams, and the fragile hope that keeps me moving forward, step by step, day by day. I never thought I'd be stuck in this kind of loop. The one where every month feels like a battle just to stay afloat, and no matter how hard I work, I can't seem to get ahead. It's like I'm running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up, while the finish line moves further away. I'm 27, supposed to be carving out a life, making some progress, but instead, I'm caught in this relentless cycle of pressure and worry. It started slowly, small things, at first. I got my first full-time job after college, and I was excited. The paycheck wasn't huge, but it was enough to cover rent, utilities, a few groceries, and maybe a little fun here and there. I had dreams, traveling, maybe going back for a master's, buying a car, even starting to save for a place of my own. But then, prices started climbing. Rent in my city shot up faster than my raises. The grocery bills felt heavier each week. Gas, electricity, phone plans, everything seemed to go up while my salary barely budged. Now, I'm constantly juggling expenses, moving money from one bill to cover another, hoping nothing unexpected happens. A car repair, a medical bill, even just a higher than usual electric bill sends me into a spiral. I try to remind myself I'm lucky to have a job, that so many people have it worse. But it doesn't stop the feeling of being trapped. Like I'm running on empty, with no clear way out. Some days, I just sit and stare at my bank app, willing the numbers to grow, to reflect even a small victory. But they rarely do. I catch myself calculating in my head, how many work shifts will it take to cover that dentist appointment? How many less meals out will I have to skip? The simplest things, like meeting a friend for coffee, become luxuries I can't afford. I don't even remember the last time I treated myself to something nice without guilt gnawing at me afterward. The emotional toll is exhausting. I try to keep a brave face around family and friends, but inside I'm anxious, constantly worried about money slipping through my fingers. I lie awake at night, thinking about bills, rent, and the paycheck I haven't received yet. Sometimes the stress crushes me, and I feel so small and powerless. There's this underlying fear that if I lose my job or get sick, everything could collapse. I'm caught in this paradox. I work hard because I want a better life, but the system around me makes it feel impossible to get there. Every time I think about moving forward, saving up, investing in education or new skills, taking risks, it feels like the cost is too high. I have to postpone dreams because reality demands I focus on survival. It's painful to watch others around me buy homes, travel, or build careers without this weight on their shoulders. Coping is a daily exercise in small wins. I've gotten good at budgeting, clipping coupons, and finding the cheapest options everywhere. I cook at home instead of eating out. I cancel subscriptions I don't absolutely need. I try to remind myself that these sacrifices are temporary. Sometimes I take long walks to clear my head, or dive into books and podcasts to keep my mind off the stress. Writing helps too, putting these feelings into words makes them feel a little lighter. Still, there's hope tucked deep inside. I cling to the idea that things can change. That maybe with time, better opportunities will come, or the economy will shift. I dream of a day when I don't have to count every cent, when I can say yes to plans without hesitation. I want to build a life where I'm not just surviving but thriving. Sometimes that dream feels far away, but it's the one thing that keeps me moving forward, one day at a time. So here I am, navigating a world that often feels stacked against me, trying to keep my head above water. It's messy, it's hard, and some days it breaks me. But it's also real, and I'm still here, holding on, hoping for something better, even when the weight feels unbearable. Some days, it feels like I'm walking underwater, every step heavier than the last, and the surface nowhere in sight. I'm 27, and since I graduated college, the weight of money has been this constant shadow, a background hum of stress that never quite fades. I keep thinking, if only I made a little more, if only rent didn't skyrocket every year, maybe I could breathe easier. But the truth is, expenses climb faster than my paycheck grows, and I'm caught in this loop that feels impossible to break. I remember when I first moved into my own apartment. It was modest, a tiny one-bedroom in a neighborhood still holding on to its working-class roots. Back then, I was hopeful. I'd landed a decent job straight out of college, not a dream job but something stable enough to cover the basics. I even treated myself to takeout once in a while. There was a sense of freedom in paying my own bills, in knowing that I was starting to build something for myself. But that feeling didn't last long. The rent went up after the first year, not by much, just a few $100s, but enough to make me tighten my belt. Then my car, which I rely on for work and getting around, needed repairs I couldn't avoid. Medical bills piled up after a bad flu, and the grocery prices seemed to climb every time I went shopping. It's like the world around me is inflating while my income stands still. I work 2 jobs now. The day job is a 9 to 5 that pays the bills, and the night shift at a local store helps me cover the extras, or at least try to. I don't complain too loudly because I know people have it worse, but some nights I lie awake wondering how people my age manage to buy homes, start families, or even just save enough to go on vacation. Meanwhile, I'm skipping meals, declining invitations, and postponing doctor's visits because I can't justify the cost. The hardest part is the feeling of being trapped. Like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up, but my legs can't keep pace. Every month, I make a budget, carefully listing out rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, and a small buffer for emergencies. But inevitably, something unexpected comes up. The heater breaks in winter, a friend's birthday party demands a gift, or the insurance premium jumps again. And when that happens, I have to borrow from my savings, which then vanish like sand slipping through my fingers. My emotional well-being has taken hits I can't easily explain to others. I try to keep a brave face, but inside, there's a gnawing anxiety that never lets up. Sometimes I get overwhelmed by the sheer monotony of making choices between what I need and what I want, knowing the want will probably never come true. It's hard not to feel defeated when your dreams seem like luxuries you've no right to indulge in. For example, I've always wanted to travel, not just for a vacation, but to see the world and learn from it. I imagined backpacking through Europe, wandering the streets of small towns, or hiking up mountains I've only seen in pictures. But those dreams have been shelved indefinitely. Instead, I focus on scraping by, on making the next month's rent, on buying a bus pass rather than a train ticket, on cooking at home instead of eating out. Every choice is a compromise. At the same time, I try to find small moments of joy. A coffee with a friend, a walk in the park, a book from the library. They remind me that life isn't just about money, even though money touches everything. I've learned to appreciate the little things more deeply, even if it sometimes feels like a consolation prize. I've also gotten better at budgeting and tracking my expenses, not because it's fun, but because it feels like a necessary form of self-care. Ignoring the numbers just leads to panic later on. I've had to become my own financial planner, counselor, and motivator all in one. I look up tips online about saving money, about investing, but honestly, investing feels like a joke when you barely have enough to cover bills. What keeps me going? Hope, I guess. A stubborn hope that things will improve. Maybe it's naive, but I try to believe that if I keep working hard and being careful, someday I'll have a cushion. Maybe I'll get a promotion or find a better job that pays more. Maybe the economy will stabilize, or rent prices will slow down. Maybe I'll even be able to buy a small place of my own, something that doesn't feel like a financial trap. I think about the future a lot, sometimes too much. I wonder if I'll ever be able to have the kind of life my parents had when they were my age. I worry about what happens if something unexpected happens, like losing a job or getting sick, and how close to the edge that would push me. I worry about retirement, about whether I can ever build enough security to stop feeling this constant pressure. At the end of the day, I try to remind myself that I'm doing the best I can. That it's okay to feel overwhelmed. That I'm not alone, even if it sometimes feels that way. I hope that by sharing this story, someone else who feels stuck might know that their struggle is seen and understood. Financial pressure isn't just about numbers, it's about dreams deferred, about the weight on your shoulders every single morning. But it's also about resilience, about small victories, and about the quiet hope that one day, the tide will turn. Until then, I keep moving forward, step by step, even underwater. Some days, I feel like I'm just treading water, but the current is always pulling me under a little more. Every morning, I wake up with the same gnawing thought: how am I going to stretch what little I have to last another day, another week? I'm 27, working a decent job that, on paper, should be enough to live on, but it's never quite enough. Not with rent creeping up every year, groceries costing more than they did 6 months ago, and every bill demanding its share before I even get to think about myself. It's hard to explain this pressure without sounding like I'm whining. I know people have it worse. I know there are folks struggling to find work at all. But what makes this so brutal is the slow, relentless squeeze, like living inside a balloon that's slowly being squeezed tighter, and all you can do is keep holding your breath, hoping it won't burst. Inflation is this invisible monster that eats away at my paycheck before I even get it. I see the prices going up at the store, hear about gas prices in the news, but my salary stays stubbornly the same. Every month I plan my budget with this faint hope that this time, I'll have some leftover for a little treat or to save, but then the car needs repairs or the electricity bill spikes, and it's all back to square one. I remember when I graduated college, full of dreams and excitement, thinking, this is it. The start of my independence. I imagined a life where I could pay my bills and still have some breathing room, to travel, to learn new things, to maybe even start saving for a home someday. Those dreams haven't disappeared, but they feel like they're being pushed further and further down the line. Every extra dollar I make just disappears into the background noise of bills, debts, and rising prices. The idea of financial freedom feels almost like a joke, something other people talk about, but that I'll never actually get to experience. Most days, I try to keep it together. I tell myself that it's just a phase, that if I work harder or smarter, I can climb out of this hole. But the weight is exhausting. It wears on me mentally and emotionally. There are nights I lie awake, heart pounding, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'll ever catch a break. The fear of something unexpected happening, a medical emergency, losing my job, a major home repair, hangs over me like a dark cloud. I'm scared to even breathe sometimes, worried it could all come crashing down. I cope by cutting back where I can, which honestly feels like a never-ending game of what can I live without this month. I've stopped eating out entirely. Friends invite me to dinner, but I always say no because it's just not in the budget. I've learned to love thrift shopping, and I'm getting pretty good at stretching leftovers. I keep track of every expense in an app, sometimes obsessively. It's a little victory when I manage to save even $20 in a month, but that's quickly swallowed up by the next expense. The social part is the hardest, maybe. I don't want to seem like the downer or the person who can't keep up, but more and more I have to decline invitations or find excuses to skip out. There's this feeling of isolation that creeps in when you're constantly watching your wallet while everyone else seems to be spending freely. It's like I'm watching life happen from the sidelines because I'm stuck figuring out how to pay for the basics. I miss spontaneous plans, the joy of not having to think twice before saying yes to something fun or relaxing. At work, I do my best to stay positive, but sometimes I catch myself daydreaming about quitting and starting something on my own, something that could bring in more money or at least give me a sense of control. But those dreams are risky and expensive, and right now, I can't afford to take that chance. The system feels rigged. No matter how hard I work, expenses rise faster than my income. The cost of living is like quicksand, and the harder I try to climb out, the deeper I seem to sink. Despite everything, I try to hold on to hope. I remind myself why I'm doing this, because I want a better life, because I want to feel stable and safe. Sometimes I imagine what it would be like to wake up one day without the stress of money pulling at my mind, to not have to plan every purchase or worry about the next bill. I picture traveling somewhere new, or going back to school to study something I love, or even just being able to say yes to friends without a second thought. But those dreams feel distant, hazy. Right now, I'm living moment to moment, managing, surviving. Some days, I cry quietly because it's just too much. Other days, I smile because I made it through another week. The truth is, I don't have all the answers. I don't know when or how things will get better. But I keep going, hoping that maybe someday, the system will shift, or I'll find a way out. Until then, I'm here, fighting the tide, holding my breath, and trying to believe in a future where this pressure finally eases. It's a strange kind of loneliness, feeling trapped in a system that feels indifferent to your efforts. But maybe sharing this, being honest about it, can be a small step toward breaking the silence around struggles like mine. Because if we don't talk about it, how do we expect things to change? For now, I'll keep pushing forward, one day at a time, holding on to those fragile dreams even as they seem to drift further away. Because giving up isn't an option, not yet. It's like waking up every day with this invisible weight strapped around my chest, a constant pressure I can't shake off no matter how hard I try. Financial stress isn't something you just switch off, it creeps in through every corner of my life, shaping decisions I never thought I'd have to make, twisting my emotions in ways I hadn't anticipated. I'm 27, living in a city that's supposed to be full of opportunity. But what I'm really surrounded by is the constant hum of rent increases, rising grocery bills, and the kind of expenses that never seem to stop climbing. My income feels like it's running on a treadmill stuck at the same speed, barely keeping pace while the costs sprint ahead, leaving me gasping and scrambling to keep up. Every morning, I wake up and calculate what I can afford that day, sometimes even that hour. Coffee out? Not this week. Going out with friends? Maybe next month if I'm lucky. I've had to cancel plans more times than I can count because it just doesn't feel responsible to spend money on anything beyond the essentials. And yet, even essential feels like a moving target, prices rise, and suddenly, what was once manageable becomes a new source of anxiety. The trap is subtle but relentless. I know that if I made more money, things would be different, but getting a raise or finding a better paying job isn't easy. The job market is competitive, and with inflation, employers are tightening budgets too. So, I'm stuck in this cycle, work hard, save what little I can, but still watch as bills devour those savings before I know it. I remember nights lying awake, staring at the ceiling, my mind spinning with numbers and worries. How many hours do I need to work to cover rent? Will my paycheck stretch long enough to cover groceries after the utility bills? Should I dip into savings, or will I regret it later? It's a mental tug-of-war that leaves me exhausted, both physically and emotionally. The feeling of being trapped isn't just about money, it's about the loss of control, the shrinking sense of freedom. I want to live, to breathe without counting every cent, but the system doesn't seem to allow it. The emotional toll is something I'm still learning to navigate. Some days, I feel embarrassed to admit how much this weighs on me. There's a shame that creeps in with financial struggle, as if I'm failing at something fundamental, even though I know that's not true. But it's hard not to internalize it when society tells you that financial stability equals success. Meanwhile, I'm just trying to survive. To cope, I've developed a sort of armor made of routines and small rituals. Budgeting apps keep me grounded, lists help me prioritize, and I've become a master of discount shopping and meal prepping. Sometimes, I find relief in simple pleasures, a walk in the park, a quiet evening with a book borrowed from the library. These moments are my sanctuary, small escapes from the grind. But they're also bittersweet reminders of the things I've had to postpone or give up altogether. Dreams I once held tightly to feel distant now. I used to imagine traveling, seeing new places, meeting new people, expanding my world. But travel feels like a luxury I can't justify when there are so many pressing needs at home. I dreamed of going back to school to pursue a degree or skill that might open doors to a better future, but tuition and living costs keep that dream just out of reach. The gap between what I want and what I can afford grows wider every day. Yet, beneath all the struggle, there's a flicker of hope. I remind myself that this moment, however hard, is not forever. I keep thinking about what I can do differently, whether it's picking up freelance work, learning new skills online, or even moving somewhere more affordable. Sometimes hope feels fragile, but it's the only thing that keeps me moving forward. Talking about this isn't easy. It feels vulnerable to admit how overwhelmed I am, but maybe that's the point, to be honest about the hardship, to break the silence that surrounds financial pressure. Because so many people feel it too, even if they don't say it out loud. We're caught in a system that's rigged to make it hard to get ahead, and acknowledging that is the first step toward change. So here I am, still trying, still hoping. Day by day, I'm learning to find balance, between reality and dreams, between survival and living. The financial pressure hasn't disappeared, but I'm figuring out how to carry it without letting it define me. One day, I want to look back and see this not as a time of defeat, but as a chapter where I held on, grew stronger, and kept dreaming even when it was hard. For now, that's enough. Hey, friends! If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. I never imagined that by the time I hit 26, I'd be feeling this kind of weight crushing down on me every single day. It's not a single moment or event, it's more like this endless, slow squeeze, tightening its grip around my life, my choices, my peace of mind. The pressure of money feels like a shadow I can't shake, even when I'm alone in my tiny apartment, lights off, staring at the ceiling, wondering how I got here and what's next. Growing up, I wasn't wealthy, but I wasn't desperate either. My parents worked hard, did their best to give me opportunities, and I always believed if I worked hard enough, I could build a stable life for myself. I graduated, landed a decent job, and thought that would be the start of my independence. But what I didn't see coming was how the world around me would shift so drastically: the rising rent, the soaring prices of groceries, gas, healthcare, and all the little things that add up, day after day. The slow burn of inflation turned my paycheck into something that seemed to stretch less and less, no matter how much I saved or scrimped. Every month feels like a juggling act with no safety net. I sit down with my bank app, heart pounding a little before I even check the balance. Rent first, always rent, because without a roof, nothing else matters. Then utilities, phone bill, the minimum on my credit card because I had to use it to cover some unexpected medical bill last month. Food comes next, but that's where I cut corners: canned beans and rice instead of fresh veggies, skipping meals sometimes when I'm really desperate. It's humiliating, and it makes me angry, but the anger often turns inward because what choice do I really have? I avoid social invitations, not because I don't want to see friends or go out, but because every coffee, every drink, every bus fare feels like a luxury I can't afford. There's a constant, gnawing tension between wanting to live and feeling like survival alone takes all my energy. My friends talk about vacations, buying cars, moving into nicer places, or even just upgrading their phones, and I nod, smile, but inside I feel like I'm trapped behind a glass wall. Watching, wanting, but so far away. The emotional toll is heavy. There are nights when I can't sleep because my mind races with all the what-ifs. What if I lose my job? What if the rent goes up again? What if a car breaks down or I get sick? I try to stay positive, remind myself that it could be worse, but it's hard not to feel worn down by the constant anxiety. Sometimes I cry alone, overwhelmed by the feeling that no matter how hard I try, I'm running a race that keeps getting longer and steeper. I've learned to cope the best I can. I track every penny, use budgeting apps, and have cut out anything non-essential. I pick up side gigs when I can: dog walking, tutoring, odd jobs, anything to bring in a few extra dollars. But that means longer days, less rest, and little time for myself. It's a trade-off I make because the alternative is falling further behind. I read a lot about financial advice, but the advice always sounds like it's coming from a place of stability I don't have. Invest in stocks. Start a side hustle. Buy a home. Meanwhile, I'm just trying to keep the lights on. Dreams that once felt so alive have had to be put on hold, maybe forever. I used to want to travel, to study abroad, to buy a small house, to start a family someday. Now, those dreams feel like fragile whispers. I try not to think about how the passing years are slipping away while I'm stuck just making ends meet. It's painful to realize that what I imagined as adult life is a constant negotiation with bills and unexpected expenses. I feel trapped in a system that seems designed to keep people like me stuck. Income doesn't keep pace with the rising cost of living. Jobs promise stability but don't deliver security. The safety nets feel full of holes, and the pressure to keep up with the rising tide of expenses crushes hopes for a better future. It's not just money, it's the loss of freedom, the loss of peace, the loss of possibility. Yet, I hold on to hope, even if it's small. I remind myself that this is just one chapter, not the whole story. I try to find moments of joy, in a good book, a walk in the park, a phone call with a friend. I believe that change is possible, that the system can shift, that maybe one day I'll breathe easier and dream bigger again. For now, I keep moving forward, day by day, paycheck by paycheck, learning resilience I never thought I'd need. It's hard and lonely and scary, but it's my life. And I want to believe that even in this struggle, there is a future waiting for me, one where I'm not defined by the weight of financial pressure but by the strength I found to keep going anyway. It's hard to describe the feeling of being squeezed from every side, like the walls around you are slowly closing in, and no matter how much you push back, they just keep creeping closer. That's been my life for the past few years, a constant pressure, a tightening noose made of bills, rent hikes, and rising costs that outpace every penny I bring home. I'm 27 now, and sometimes it feels like the future I imagined just keeps slipping further out of reach. I grew up believing that if I worked hard, I could build a decent life for myself. My parents never had much, but they always said education was the key, and so I went to college, got a degree, and landed a job in a small marketing firm. It pays the bills, but barely. Every month feels like a battle. The paycheck arrives, and before I even get a chance to breathe, it's already gone: rent, utilities, groceries, insurance, and those little expenses you don't really think about until they add up. A few $100s here, a random car repair there. And with inflation and the cost of living skyrocketing, it's like I'm running on a treadmill that speeds up every day. Some days I sit at my tiny kitchen table with my laptop open, staring at my bank balance and trying to figure out how to stretch it for the next 2 weeks until payday. It's embarrassing, honestly. I'm supposed to be an adult, but I still have to count every dollar, every cent. I skip meals sometimes, not because I'm hungry, but because I know I need to save. I've cut out almost all social activities, no dinners with friends, no movie nights, no spontaneous trips. The few times I do go out, I feel this guilt gnawing at me, like I'm throwing money away on things that don't matter. I've learned to be hyper-aware of the price tags on everything. When I go grocery shopping, I avoid any item that isn't on sale or doesn't have a coupon. I plan meals around what's cheapest: rice, beans, frozen vegetables, and I sometimes catch myself wishing I could afford fresh fruit or a steak dinner. But I can't. And honestly, I don't even know when that might change. The job market is tough. Raises are rare, and even when they come, they don't keep pace with the rising costs. I've tried applying for better-paying jobs, but competition is fierce, and experience often trumps enthusiasm. Sometimes, late at night, the pressure feels suffocating. I lie awake thinking about how rent might go up again next year or what would happen if my car broke down or if an emergency hit. There's a constant low hum of anxiety just beneath the surface, like a storm waiting to break. I've had to postpone so many things I once dreamed about: moving out on my own, traveling, going back to school for a master's degree, saving for a down payment on a house. These things seem like luxuries now, distant goals I whisper to myself on the rare quiet moments. There's also this nagging feeling of invisibility. Society talks about the American dream, about climbing the ladder, owning a home, building wealth, but for many of us, that ladder feels broken. We're stuck on the bottom rung, watching others move up while we hold on tight, trying not to fall. It's hard not to feel like the system is set up to keep people like me just barely afloat, never quite able to catch a real break. Despite all this, I try to hold on to hope, even if it's faint. I found small ways to cope. Sometimes it's journaling, sometimes it's talking to friends who get it, sometimes it's those quiet moments walking outside, feeling the sun on my face and reminding myself I'm still here, still trying. I've learned to celebrate the little victories, making it through the month without overdrafting, getting a small raise, cooking a decent meal from scratch. These small wins keep me going. I also think a lot about the future. I want to believe things will get better, that I'll find a job that pays me what I'm worth, that I'll have a home to call my own, that I won't have to choose between paying bills and living a little. I want to travel again, to explore places I've only dreamed of. I want to feel free, not trapped. But for now, the reality is that I'm stuck in this cycle where expenses keep growing faster than my income. It's exhausting, frustrating, and sometimes heartbreaking. But I'm still here. Still fighting. Still hoping that one day, the walls won't feel so close, and I can finally breathe again. Maybe that's enough for now. Sometimes, when I'm lying awake late at night, the silence presses in so thick it feels like a weight on my chest. It's then that the numbers in my head start swirling, unstoppable: rent, groceries, utilities, student loans, insurance, gas, phone bills. They add up so fast, way faster than anything I'm bringing in, and every month, the gap only grows wider. I'm 26, working 2 jobs, and somehow still feeling like I'm sinking deeper in quicksand. Growing up, I never imagined my 20s would feel like this, like I was caught in a tightening vice, with no room to breathe or move. I always thought if I worked hard, if I got my degree, I'd be able to build something stable for myself. But here I am, and it feels like the system is designed to keep me stuck. Every time I think I'm making progress, a new expense pops up or prices climb higher, pulling me back to the same spot or even worse, behind. The rent alone is a nightmare. I live in a tiny one-bedroom that barely fits my bed and a desk, and I pay over half my income for it. Last year, my landlord raised the rent by 8%. 8%. That's more than my raise at work. The increase hit me like a punch in the gut. It's infuriating and exhausting all at once. I don't have the luxury to move somewhere cheaper because everything around me is either ridiculously expensive or unsafe. So, I swallow my frustration and tighten my belt even further, cutting back on things that used to bring me some joy. Groceries are a daily struggle, too. The prices keep creeping up, and I find myself agonizing over whether to buy fresh produce or settle for canned veggies. Eating healthy feels like a luxury I can't afford. I meal prep on weekends, trying to stretch every dollar, but there's this constant background anxiety: what if next month I don't have enough? What if the car breaks down? What if my hours get cut? That uncertainty is a heavy cloud hovering over every decision I make. Work used to be something I enjoyed. I'm in customer service, which is stressful, but it paid the bills. Now, it feels like a grind that never ends, a hamster wheel I can't get off. The economic environment around me, rising inflation, stagnant wages, increasing cost of living, has turned my paycheck into a fraction of what it used to be worth. The truth is, I'm exhausted. Physically, mentally, emotionally. I'm constantly juggling schedules, skipping meals, saying no to friends, and pushing through exhaustion just to keep my head above water. I sometimes wonder how I got here, feeling so trapped. It's like the whole system is stacked against people like me, young adults trying to build a future but caught in a rat race with no finish line. I scroll through social media and see people my age traveling, buying homes, starting families, and it stings. Not because I'm jealous of their success, but because I feel invisible, like I'm left behind through no fault of my own. I'm working just as hard, if not harder, but the world keeps shifting beneath my feet. Emotional well-being? It's fragile. There are days when I feel like a failure, like I'm not doing enough even though I'm stretched to my limits. Anxiety visits regularly, and sometimes it's so overwhelming that it's hard to focus on anything else. I catch myself in these moments, telling myself it's okay to feel this way, but it doesn't stop the loneliness or the fear. My friends are supportive, but I don't want to burden them with the constant stress. Plus, they're fighting their own battles. Coping is a patchwork of small things. I listen to music that soothes me, take long walks when I can, and write in a journal when the thoughts get too heavy. Sometimes, I binge-watch shows to escape reality for a bit. And every once in a while, I treat myself to a coffee or a small meal out, tiny acts of rebellion against the monotony and the pressure. These moments remind me that I'm still here, still fighting, still hoping. Speaking of hope, there's where things get complicated. I've had to postpone so many dreams. I wanted to travel, to see the world outside this small bubble. I wanted to go back to school to study something I'm passionate about, maybe psychology or creative writing. I dreamed of owning a home someday, planting a garden, building a life that felt mine. Now those dreams feel distant, like stars flickering just out of reach. I tell myself they're not gone, just delayed. But the weight of reality sometimes makes me wonder if they'll ever come true. Still, there's a stubborn part of me that refuses to give up. I hold on to the idea that this period, this struggle, is temporary. That the economy will shift, that wages will catch up, that I'll find better opportunities. I remind myself that I'm building resilience and that every small step forward counts, even if it feels invisible. I try to be kind to myself on the days when it's hardest. I guess what I'm really trying to say is this: living under ongoing financial pressure isn't just about numbers on a paycheck or bills on a table. It's about how that pressure shapes every moment of your day, how it infiltrates your thoughts, your emotions, and your dreams. It's about feeling stuck in a system where the costs keep rising but your income doesn't, where every choice is a compromise, and every small victory is hard-won. I don't have all the answers, and I don't know exactly how this chapter ends. But for now, I'm here, navigating the uncertainty, holding on to hope, and doing my best to survive and maybe, one day, thrive. If you're reading this and feeling the same way, trapped, tired, uncertain, you're not alone. We're in this together, even if it doesn't always feel like it. And maybe, just maybe, that's the start of something better. I never thought I'd find myself here, sitting at my tiny kitchen table, staring at a mountain of bills and bank statements that don't add up. It's not that I'm uneducated or lazy. I've got a college degree, a decent job, and a relentless work ethic. Yet, every month feels like I'm trapped in a slow suffocation, where expenses rise like a tide, and my paycheck is just a small boat struggling to stay afloat. Some mornings, I wake up with this heavy knot in my chest. It's that creeping anxiety, the dread that the rent is due soon and that I still don't know how I'll cover the grocery bill. I scroll through my phone, seeing posts from friends who just bought new cars, went on vacations, or even just shared pictures of dinner out at a nice restaurant. I don't envy them, well, maybe I do, a little. But mostly, I feel exhausted. Exhausted by the constant balancing act of making choices that feel less like options and more like sacrifices. The economic environment feels like an invisible force field around me, pushing back hard every time I try to step forward. Inflation has eaten away at every dollar I earn. Rent hikes every year mean my apartment, which used to feel like a sanctuary, now feels more like a burden. Utilities, groceries, phone bills, student loans, they all climb steadily upward. Meanwhile, my salary barely budges. Even when I get a raise, it's more like a drop in the bucket compared to the rising costs of living. There was a time when I dreamed of owning a home, traveling the world, maybe even starting my own business. I imagined evenings spent with friends, dinners at cozy restaurants, weekends spent exploring new places. Those dreams still live inside me, but they're like distant stars, beautiful and shining, but so far away they might as well be out of reach. Instead, my daily decisions are calculated moves on a chessboard where every piece counts. Should I buy the generic brand to save a few bucks, or stretch my budget thin for something better? Can I afford to fill my car's gas tank fully, or just enough to get to work? Is it worth paying a little extra for something that will last longer, or do I risk breaking it and replacing it later because the cheaper one saved me today? I've learned to live with this constant tension, but it's exhausting. It wears on me, like a low hum of stress that never quite fades away. Some nights, I lie awake, the ceiling above me becoming a canvas for all my worries. What if I lose my job? What if my car breaks down next month? How will I handle a medical emergency? I think about the future, and it's hard not to feel defeated before I've even begun. Financial pressure has a way of creeping into every part of life, even where it doesn't belong. I catch myself hesitating to invite friends over because I can't afford to feed anyone properly. I skip birthdays or holidays, not because I don't want to celebrate, but because there's no room in the budget. I avoid going to the doctor for a lingering cough because I'm scared of what the bill might be. Coping has been its own kind of challenge. I try to focus on the little things, the free moments of joy like a walk in the park, a good book borrowed from the library, or a quiet morning coffee at home instead of a pricey cafe. I talk to close friends when I can, not about the superficial things, but about the real struggles. There's comfort in knowing I'm not alone, even if it feels like the world outside has forgotten about people like me. Sometimes, I find myself dreaming again. Not the big, extravagant dreams I once had, but smaller hopes, like saving enough to take a weekend trip, or finally replacing my old laptop so I can study a course online and improve my skills. These little sparks keep me moving, even when it feels like I'm running in place. Still, the system feels rigged. It's like climbing a staircase that's always growing taller, no matter how many steps I take. There's a profound frustration in knowing that no matter how hard I work, I might never catch up. It's a quiet despair that I try to mask with humor and determination, but it's there. At the end of the day, I'm holding on to hope. Hope that someday the scales will tip in my favor, that the rising tide of expenses will level out, and that my efforts won't just keep me alive, but allow me to truly live. Until then, I keep moving forward, even if it's one small, careful step at a time. Because giving up isn't an option. Sometimes it feels like I'm stuck in a loop where every month, no matter how hard I work or how tightly I pinch pennies, the gap between what I make and what I owe just keeps getting wider. I'm 27, supposed to be building my life, but instead I'm just barely holding on. The world around me keeps changing, but somehow I stay in the same place, sinking deeper under this financial weight. I didn't always feel like this. Growing up, I imagined my 20s as a time of freedom, chasing dreams, maybe traveling a little, making memories with friends without constantly stressing about money. But reality has been different. After college, I landed a decent job, or so I thought. The pay was okay at first, but inflation hit hard. Rent prices climbed faster than my salary ever could. Groceries, utilities, transportation, it's like the cost of living has a mind of its own, and it doesn't care about my paycheck. Every time I think I might get ahead, something else breaks, or prices surge, and I'm back to juggling bills again. The hardest part is the feeling of being trapped. It's like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up, and no matter how fast I run, I can't get off or slow down. I make a budget every month, usually strict, with every dollar accounted for, but there's always a surprise expense. Maybe the car needs an unexpected repair, or a medical bill shows up. Those things set me back weeks, sometimes months. I remember once choosing between buying groceries for the week or paying a utility bill on time. That's not how life was supposed to be, but it's my reality. This financial pressure isn't just about numbers. It's emotional, too. Every morning I wake up feeling anxious. I lie awake at night thinking about bills, wondering if I'll have enough for rent or the phone bill or even something as simple as gas. I hate how money has become the biggest source of stress in my life, controlling my thoughts and dictating my decisions. Sometimes it makes me angry, at the system, at luck, at the fact that I studied hard, worked hard, and still feel stuck. Other times I just feel exhausted, like I'm carrying a weight too heavy for me to bear, and I wonder if it will ever get easier. Socially, it's isolating. Friends invite me out, but I often say no because I can't afford it. I avoid events or trips because they seem like luxuries I can't justify. I know people don't always understand that turning down a night out isn't about not wanting to hang out, it's about surviving. I sometimes feel ashamed, like I'm failing at being independent or successful, even though I'm trying my best. To cope, I've learned to be resourceful. I clip coupons, cook meals from scratch, and hunt for deals wherever I can. I've started picking up side gigs when I have time, sometimes just odd jobs, to make a little extra cash. It's exhausting and takes up time I'd rather spend relaxing or pursuing hobbies, but it's the only way I see to keep from sinking further. I've also found comfort in small things, walking in the park, reading books from the library, or listening to podcasts. These don't cost much but help me feel less overwhelmed. Despite everything, I still hold on to some hopes. I dream of a day when I don't have to choose between essentials, when I can save money for a real vacation or buy a car that isn't on its last legs. I dream of owning a home, even if it's modest. Sometimes I imagine going back to school to improve my skills or switching careers to something better paying. But those dreams often feel distant, almost unreachable. Saving for emergencies seems impossible, let alone investing in my future. I'm also scared. Scared of the unexpected, a health crisis, losing my job, another rent hike. I worry about getting older and still being stuck, about what my life will look like in 5 or 10 years if nothing changes. It's a constant battle between hope and fear. Talking about this is hard because it feels like admitting defeat. But maybe being honest is the first step to change. I want to believe that I can break free from this cycle, that the system isn't designed to keep people like me down. I want to believe that my hard work will eventually pay off, and that life will offer some breathing room. For now, I take it one day at a time. I remind myself that I'm not alone, there are so many others in this same boat. And even though the weight is heavy, I hold on to the small victories, a week where bills get paid on time, a paycheck that stretches a little further, a moment of peace amidst the chaos. Maybe someday soon, those small steps will add up to something bigger. Until then, I keep trying, keep hoping, and keep surviving. That's my story, raw and real. I'm still here, still fighting. I never thought I'd feel this way at 26. Like I'm stuck in a loop, running faster but never getting anywhere. Every month is the same, paychecks come in, bills go out, and somehow the pile of money in between feels smaller than the last time. It's like no matter how much I hustle, how hard I work, I'm just treading water in a sea that keeps rising. I grew up believing that if I worked hard enough, got a decent job, kept my head down, stayed responsible, I'd be okay. That was the promise, right? But reality hit like a brick the moment I moved out on my own. Rent is insane. Utilities climb every year. Groceries keep creeping up, and somehow the cost of basic just means less and less in my cart. When I look around, everything I need is tagged with a price that's too high for what I earn, and it's exhausting. Sometimes, it feels like the system is designed to keep me on a treadmill that speeds up the more I run. Income barely inches forward, if it does at all, while expenses shoot through the roof. My job gives me small raises now and then, but inflation devours them before I even get a chance to breathe. It's this invisible weight pressing down every day, shaping every choice I make, where to shop, what to eat, whether to fill up my gas tank or skip a trip. I remember a time when I thought about dreams, big dreams. I wanted to travel, to move somewhere new, to maybe even start a business. Now those dreams seem so distant. I've had to push them back again and again, trading hopes for survival. Even simple things, like saving for a weekend getaway or putting money aside for something unexpected, feel impossible. The idea of a rainy day fund is almost a joke when every day feels like a storm you're barely managing to survive. Some nights, I lie awake worrying about what will happen if I get sick or if the car breaks down. I don't have a cushion for emergencies, and that scares me more than I want to admit. There's this gnawing anxiety that no matter what, something is going to come up that will push me over the edge. And then what? How do I fix that when the whole system feels stacked against me? Emotionally, it's draining. It's hard not to feel like a failure, even though I'm doing everything I can. The pressure weighs on my self-worth. I've become hyper-aware of how little margin there is in my life, and that makes me constantly second-guess my decisions. Every dollar spent is a choice with consequences, and the fear of making the wrong choice is paralyzing. I try to cope the best I can. I find small moments of joy where I can, walking instead of taking the bus to save money, cooking meals at home instead of eating out, cutting back on anything that's not absolutely necessary. I've gotten creative, hunting for deals, swapping skills with friends to avoid paying for services, and trying to build a community that doesn't revolve around spending money. Sometimes I'm proud of how resourceful I've become. Other times, it just feels like I'm shrinking my life, cutting away the edges of who I want to be until all that's left is survival mode. It's lonely too, because not many people talk openly about how exhausting and disheartening this feels. There's shame in struggling when everyone else seems to manage or thrive. But despite it all, there's a flicker of hope that won't go out. I hold on to the belief that this isn't forever, that if I keep pushing, keep learning, maybe I can find a way through. I dream of a day when I don't have to check my bank account 5 times before deciding if I can afford the bus fare. When I can plan for the future without fear. When I can breathe easy and feel like I'm building something, not just surviving. I don't know how or when that day will come. But for now, I'm here, doing the best I can in a system that feels rigged, carrying the weight of invisible chains but still moving forward, one small step at a time. This is my reality. It's messy, it's hard, and sometimes it hurts. But it's mine. It's hard to describe what it feels like to live every day with a knot in your stomach, knowing that the numbers just don't add up, no matter how hard you try. I'm 27 now, and the last few years have been a constant balancing act, juggling bills, rent, groceries, and the small emergencies that always pop up, like a sudden car repair or a medical bill. Every paycheck feels like it slips through my fingers before I even get a chance to breathe. I keep telling myself, just one more month, just a little longer, but the pressure doesn't ease, it only grows heavier, like a weight I can't put down. I grew up believing that if you worked hard enough, things would get better. That was the story I was told. Graduate from college, get a job, pay your dues, and eventually, you'll have some security, maybe a little comfort. But the reality? The reality is a slow grind, with each step forward met by 2 steps back. Rent increases, utility bills rise, food prices climb, and my salary hasn't kept pace with any of it. Sometimes, it feels like I'm running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up no matter how fast I push my legs. Most days, I wake up early and stare at my phone, scrolling through my bank app, calculating what's left after rent, after utilities, after the minimum credit card payments. There's usually enough to buy the bare essentials, maybe a couple of grocery bags, nothing fancy. I've gotten really good at couponing and meal planning, but even then, the math is tight. Sometimes I skip meals or delay buying medications just so I can pay for a gas refill or keep the electricity on. I hate that I have to choose between things like this. It's exhausting and demoralizing. Social life has taken a hit too. I don't go out with friends as much anymore because I simply can't afford it. Every invitation feels like a test of my self-control and my pride. I'm constantly reminding myself that it's okay to say no, but it stings to watch others live freely while I'm stuck counting pennies. Birthdays, holidays, casual weekends, all of it is shadowed by money worries. I keep telling my friends that I'm just saving up, but honestly, it's more like surviving. Sometimes, when I'm alone at night, I feel this creeping loneliness that's tied to the isolation financial stress creates. At work, I do my best to keep up a positive attitude. I'm grateful to have a job, but I'm paid hourly, and there's no room for raises right now. Overtime isn't always available, and when it is, it's not consistent enough to plan on. I've thought about looking for a second job, but the idea of working 2 or 3 jobs just to break even is soul-crushing. There's no time left for rest or for anything beyond the grind. My health suffers, physical, emotional, and mental. Sometimes I lie awake at night, heart racing, feeling like I'm drowning in bills and deadlines. I catch myself dreaming, though, even if I try to push it away. I dream about owning a small apartment, something stable, something mine. I dream about traveling, about waking up without anxiety. I want to take courses, learn new skills, maybe even start a small business someday. But those dreams feel like distant lights flickering on the horizon, beautiful but unreachable. The truth is, every dollar I make goes towards surviving now, not building a future. There's a bitterness that creeps in, too, the sense that I'm trapped in a system designed to keep me just barely afloat. Inflation is real. Prices climb, but wages lag behind. The cost of living outpaces every effort I make. Sometimes I wonder if this is what it means to be my generation, stuck in a loop where debt accumulates and wealth feels like a secret only others have access to. The weight of that realization is suffocating. It makes me question everything, my choices, my path, even my worth. But I'm not giving up, not entirely. I cling to small victories, the paycheck that covers the rent on time, the month when I manage to save a little bit, the moments of joy when I laugh with friends, even if it's on a walk rather than a night out. I've started journaling, trying to get my fears and hopes out of my head and onto paper. It helps to see my thoughts written down, to remind myself that I'm more than the numbers in my bank account. Some nights, when the silence is too loud, I talk to myself in the mirror. I remind myself that my situation doesn't define me, that this hardship is temporary, even if it doesn't feel like it now. I remind myself that I'm capable, resourceful, and worthy of a better life. I have to believe that, or else the pressure will crush me completely. Financial stress isn't just about money, it's about feeling invisible, about the constant fear that you'll never catch up, that you're just a cog in a vast machine that doesn't notice you or care. It's about the isolation, the sacrifices, the postponed dreams. But it's also about resilience, about fighting for each day, no matter how hard, and hoping that one day, the scales will tip. I don't know exactly when or how, but I hold on to the hope that someday, I'll break free from this cycle. That I'll find stability, peace, and enough space to breathe without fear. Until then, I keep going, one day, one decision, one small step at a time. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to talk openly about money like this. Not because I'm ashamed, though maybe a little of that too, but because it feels like admitting defeat. Like confessing that I'm stuck in a game rigged against me, and no matter how hard I try, I can't catch up. I'm 27 now. I live in a tiny one-bedroom apartment in a city where rent eats half my paycheck before I even get to think about food or bills. It wasn't always like this. When I first graduated college, I believed things would get easier. I imagined finding a decent job, paying off my student loans steadily, saving a little here and there, maybe even moving into a nicer place within a few years. But the truth is, the past 5 years have been a slow, exhausting climb uphill, one where the ground keeps slipping out from under me. Every morning, I wake up with this knot in my stomach. It's not just about the money itself, it's about what it means. I have this constant anxiety that if I make the smallest mistake, I won't be able to cover rent, or a medical bill, or the car repairs that I desperately need. And it's not like my income is terrible. I work full-time at a marketing firm, earning what's supposed to be a living wage, but that phrase feels like a cruel joke. Because living? It's barely surviving. The cost of everything seems to be spiraling out of control. Groceries have gone up, utilities too. I've learned to squeeze every dollar, buying only generic brands, clipping coupons, meal prepping to avoid eating out, which I barely do anymore anyway. I catch myself calculating the cost of small things, like deciding if I should buy a new pair of shoes or try to stretch the old ones until they fall apart. I even hesitate before turning on the heater in winter because I know my electric bill will jump. It feels like a constant balancing act, and one wrong move can send everything tumbling. The hardest part is the feeling of being trapped. It's like running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up. No matter how fast I run, I'm not getting anywhere. My expenses grow faster than my income, and I watch as any chance for financial breathing room slips further out of reach. I see friends buying homes, traveling, investing. Meanwhile, I'm just trying to keep my head above water. There was a time when I dreamed differently. I wanted to travel, To see new places, experience different cultures, maybe even work abroad for a year or two. I pictured owning a home one day, a small garden where I could grow my own herbs and vegetables. I imagined having the freedom to spend a weekend without worrying about every penny. But those dreams feel distant now, almost like luxuries I can't afford to think about. Sometimes, late at night, I lie awake and let the weight of it all settle on me. I feel the quiet sting of loneliness, the ache of wanting more but being stuck with less. It's hard not to blame myself, even though I know it's not just about personal choices. The economy feels like this vast, impersonal force crushing ordinary people under the weight of rising costs, stagnant wages, and a job market that never quite feels stable. I try to cope in small ways. I talk with close friends about what I'm going through, and it helps to know I'm not alone. I've started journaling, pouring my fears and hopes onto the page. It's like giving my anxiety a shape so it's less overwhelming. Sometimes I go for long walks just to clear my head, reminding myself there's a world beyond bills and budgets. But coping isn't the same as fixing things. I'm still waiting for the day when I feel secure, when money stops being a source of stress and becomes a tool for living fully. I hope for raises, promotions, or maybe even a career shift that pays better. I look for ways to learn new skills, to increase my value, but the constant grind makes it hard to find the energy or time. Deep down, I'm afraid that if this keeps up, I'll lose more than money. I'll lose hope. I'll lose the part of me that dares to dream. And maybe that's why I'm writing this now, because admitting the struggle is the first step to fighting it. I want to believe that even in this suffocating economic reality, there's a way forward. That I can rebuild those postponed dreams, one day at a time. For now, I take it day by day. I celebrate small victories, paying off a credit card, saving a few extra dollars, finding a moment of peace. I remind myself that this pressure, this feeling of being trapped, doesn't define me. I'm more than the sum of my debts and expenses. And maybe someday soon, things will start to change. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.